You know, there are a lot of ideas, there's a lot of phrases that the modern day left has either tried to weaponize against the people they disagree with or has actually been really, really successful in doing it, right? For example, and this is just one example, there are people that really do truly believe that an unarmed, mostly peaceful, but very, very angry mob that was at the US Capitol for less than 4 hours, they really believed that that was a real insurrection. They believed that that was an attempted government overthrow and that we were just literally moments away from losing democracy forever. And if they're right, which they're not, but if they are, we should all breathe a sigh of relief that such a high concentration of people that cling to their God and their guns forgot to bring any to their well-planned but poorly executed insurrection, right? But anyway, I'm not trying to change any minds. I'm not trying to win any hearts and minds with that one. My point is that people actually believe this stuff. People believe all kinds of stuff. And anything that someone could possibly believe can also be weaponized. And, you know, the idea of the deep state, of course, is no exception. But what is the deep state, right? Well, the left, of course, they're going to describe it as some sort of conspiracy theory. But the deep state is real. And all that it is are mass amounts of unelected, deeply entrenched, and almost unfireable bureaucrats, people you've never heard of, will never hear of, hundreds of thousands of these people. And these are the people making real decisions that affect real lives, the kinds of decisions that most people imagine they're electing people to make. Basically every single decision, you know. Most people believe that we elect lawmakers. That's what they call themselves. That's what we call them. But of all the 300,000 statutes that exist in the United States that govern literally everything, 98% of those, according to the Manhattan Institute, were created by administrative action, right? By bureaucrats. And all that is done is give the real power and the real control to bureaucratic enforcement agents that you have never and probably will never even hear of, right? But anyway, what's my point? My point is the deep state is real. It wants power. It wants control. It believes you're a moron. It actually believes you're probably a dangerous moron. And it definitely believes you cannot be trusted to think for yourself. And if you want to see what it wants to do next here, the entirety of the West, just look at Australia, man. They have now a person, a bureaucrat, called an e-commissioner, essentially a bureaucrat designed to safeguard the internet.
Chris, we've had him on this program, has submitted a notice of appeal against the e-safety commissioner in this country, Julie Inman Grant, over her takedown order for his post where he supposedly misgendered a trans activist. Tell me the latest with this case. It's a fascinating one. It's one that got international attention. People were shocked that this was happening in Australia. And you would think the e-safety commissioner would have bigger priorities, I don't know, child exploitation for one, than to bring down posts on X.
Yeah, that's right. Look, there is a serious issue with the exposure of children to, graphic and obscene content, and it needs to be dealt with. The problem that you've got here with this e-safety commissioner, she's an activist.
Absolutely.
She will continue to expand her role to police the internet, to censor debate in a way that's consistent with her own ideological views. We're just talking about the EPA. It's the exact same problem. You have these unelected bureaucrats that have vague powers, and they will fill it with their views. And she has a track record of censorship, and it only ever targets one side. And unfortunately, we're seeing that happen again.
And let's not forget, we've mentioned it before on this program, she was appointed by the coalition government. This isn't some Labor appointment. This is an example of the coalition wasting power. You do wonder why, what's the point of voting for them?
Well,
they kind of just appoint lefties to run the bureaucracy.
And also the misinformation and disinformation laws that started under Paul Fletcher when he was communicating. Now, this government's gone way further, but they permitted it through allowing it to go as far as it did.
If you thought the U.S. was unique in our bureaucratic socialist takeover, sadly for the rest of the West, we are not unique, man. This guy nailed it. Unelected bureaucrats with vague powers. You can't put it any better than that, right? And because these powers are so vague, they just fill them with their own views. And when I think about these people, I imagine them like activist judges, only they don't have to pretend to care about the law or care about precedent, right? And Rita here, this lady is Rita from Sky News. She's hilarious, man. But she mentioned the coalition government appointed this woman. And just so you know, that's not some, special form of government. That's one of the parties in Australia. It's their Conservative Party, which is why Rita is so disappointed that they've appointed just a bunch of lefties, right? Without knowing too much, it sounds like another thing not unique to America is the Uniparty. But anyway, why am I talking about Australia? Well, because it's a strong, it's a powerful country, and we share a lot of similarities. And this safety commissioner doesn't really seem that far off to me than the Biden fantasy Homeland Security Disinformation Governance Board, or whatever they called it, Ministry of Truth, if you're a fan of Orwell. And by the way, the lady who's destroying the Australians' free speech, she's actually a dual citizen. She's a United States citizen as well. Her name is Julie Inman Grant, and she loves her job.
Well, we have a range of graduated powers. There could be civil proceedings and we could take them to court or we could fine them. Of course, the quantum of the fine would depend on the gravity of the noncompliance, but we can use graduated tools like link deletion notices. So if they fail to remove the content, then we can go to the search engines such as Google or Bing to really minimize the amount of content the Australians can see.
Dude, just listen to how these people talk, man. It's freaking frightening. The punishment will depend on the gravity of the non-compliance. That is scary sounding stuff. And she says if they don't police themselves, she's going to require big tech to minimize the amount of content the Australians can see. These are her people, right? That just seems to me a weird way to talk about the citizens you're supposed to be protecting. She calls the people she serves the Australians. I don't know. Maybe it's different over there. I don't know. That just seems weird. And I don't know, as she's talking about her powers to limit the information that they can actually see. And it appears that as far as unelected, insane sounding bureaucrats are concerned, she might actually have some enforcement powers. I mean, the police seem to be on board with it.
I also want to stress that there is misinformation being communicated across social media, and people should not share any of that information. The source of information should be from police and law enforcement authorities, and if people have concerns, they should check our websites, our socials, and any other direct news from law enforcement about current information. If we have current credible information about any risk or threat to the community, we will let them know. We will share that with the community. So please be assured that police will be the source of truth and not social media and misinformation.
Just replay what you just heard in your head, man. Basically, she says, if we have credible information, threat information, we'll be sure to let you know. Believe no one and nothing but us. Be assured that the police will be the source of truth. I mean, that's insane, right? I mean, not social media, she says, not misinformation. And of course, misinformation, that's going to be determined by the e-commissioner, of course. But a couple things strike me when I see this, right? First, they must really, really trust the police in Australia, or at least not hate the police like Americans are being trained to. And the second thing, man, George Orwell, he really, really was a future-telling genius. It's insane. It is frightening. It's scary stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but my thoughts are, if these are the people that are in charge of making and enforcing the laws and the regulation, who would you guess that the true enemy is? Who is their true enemy?
Elon Musk has no social conscience or conscience whatsoever. I don't know, whatever Elon Musk is on, it says that that's okay to continue to air that is absolutely disgusting behaviour. And quite frankly, the bloke should be jailed. And the sooner that we can bring rules in or do something about this sort of game playing with our social media, the better off we're going to be. But quite frankly, the power that man has, because of that platform that he's on, it's got to stop. It has absolutely got to stop. That bloke should not have a right to be out there on his own ideology platform and creating hatred, showing all this stuff out there to our kids and doing all the rest. I'm very interested to watch what the US is going to do with TikTok and how far that they can do We're trying to get rid of that platform as well. So I think we're all watching on the United States at the moment to see what they're doing. But seriously, if we can move, and if that means in the next sitting that we can shut him down from doing this, because this is just disgraceful.
You kick the platform out?
I don't give a stuff about the platform. I'm happy to go off the platform today, to be honest with you. I already have a list of all you journalists. I don't even know why we're on the platform. But I say this to everybody else. I'll be switching off X today. I'll be doing that before I get to the airport this afternoon. And I suggest that the other 227 members of parliament do the same thing and show them that you mean business. Because when you want to lead by example, it has to happen from here. It has to happen from here. So start switching off X. Start throwing it back at him. But we've got to start from here.
So that's a representative from Tasmania named Jackie Lambie, who appears to be a former independent who started her own party. Seems like a halfway decent platform when I read about it, from what I can tell on the internet. But I do agree with her that leading by example is without a doubt important. But what I can't fully understand is why she has a problem with freedom of speech and access to information. And, you know, I also don't really know how independent you can claim to be when you have the same views as the Labour Party Prime Minister, who seems to be even more authoritarian than the average American leftist.
I want to ask you about Elon Musk. He's mocked you this morning for choosing censorship and propaganda over free speech and truth. What's your response to that?
Well, this is a bloke who's chosen ego and showing violence over common sense. I think that Australians will shake their head when they think that this billionaire is prepared to go to court fighting for the right to sow division and to show violent videos which are very distressing. He is in social media, but he has a social responsibility in order to have that social licence. And what has occurred here is that the E-Safety Commissioner has made very sensible suggestions. Other social media companies have complied without complaint. But this bloke thinks he's above the Australian law, that he's above common decency. And I tell you what, I say to Elon Musk that he is so out of touch with what the Australian public want. This has been a distressing time. And I find this bloke on the other side of the world, from his billionaires' establishments, trying to lecture Australians about free speech. Well, I won't cop it, and Australians won't either.
So what happens if the vision in question here isn't taken down?
Well, of course, there is a court order has been put in place. It's a sensible proposition. No one is above the law. Not Elon Musk, not any Australian citizen. When it comes to operating here in Australia, he has a business that gives him a lot of profit, and I just find it extraordinary that this bloke thinks he's above the law and above common decency. This shouldn't be a matter of the law. It should be a matter of people doing the right thing.
Can you get a meeting with him, or should moves be made to speak to him? Would you be even interested in that?
Well, I think our position is very clear, and Mr. Musk has made his position clear. This bloke thinks he's above everyone. Well, that's not the way that Australia operates, and we have sent a clear message across the board. Politicians in Australia across the political spectrum are backing the E-Safety Commissioner, and they're backing the E-Safety Commissioner because she's acting in the interests of common sense and in the interests of common decency.
Does the fact that he does not care, though, does that show how weak laws are to try and stop him from doing what he's doing?
It shows how arrogant this bloke is. That's what it shows. But we'll continue to pursue. He had a loss in the legal system last night with this interim decision, and we will back the E-Safety Commissioner, as I'm sure every parliamentarian will. And Mr Musk should be very conscious of the fact that Australians are united on this issue.
So apparently authoritarian leftists, they're everywhere, man. It's not an American thing. It's not an American phenomenon. They're freaking everywhere. And honestly, that's pretty damn depressing. You know, I would tell you, I would bet at least that Australian leftists are probably better looking than the average American leftist, but that's just a guess. But anyway, here's why they keep talking about Elon willfully showing violence to Australian children. You know, you guys probably saw that there was a bishop in Sydney who got stabbed by a terrorist while giving a sermon. And Australia, for whatever reason, wants the fact that a Muslim kid stabbed a Christian in a hate crime terror attack, they want that, for whatever reason, scrubbed from the public record. They probably are afraid of, you know, the left's favorite made-up term, Islamophobia. They're afraid they can't control the narrative, right? That's what it is. You know, I can't really find anything that explains their position on why they want it taken down. They just say they don't want violence shown. But my gut tells me you'd be able to find thousands and thousands of other examples of the same or worse kind of violence, probably readily accessible on other social media platforms all over Australia, right? For Australian people to see, or the Australians, as the e-commissioner wants to call them, you know, but that violence probably promotes a different narrative. I don't know. I don't know that to be a fact. That's just my gut. You know, leftists appear to be leftists regardless of how cool their accent sounds. And like any good leftists, these ones, of course, they just don't like arrogant billionaires. But let me know in the comments how arrogant you think Elon sounds. I mean, his point seems to be that news and video of this attack has been shown all over the entire world. And his question is, you know, should a country be able to censor content that is seen by the entire world? And if that's the case, he asked a great question. You know, where's the line? Should Russia be able to censor Ukraine-related content? I would imagine people would say no, you know, but these are all good questions. But anyway, these people are everywhere, man. And everywhere that they hold real power, there is less liberty. There's just no doubt about it. The only question is, when they have this kind of power, how do we stop them, man? But that's just my take, guys. I thought you guys would find that interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.